Welcome everyone to today's Flex webinar. I'm your host, Marcus Merritt. Today we want to talk about some recently updated accounting features. There was a few features in this patch and with one within the last patch that were added and that I really think are good. There's a lot of people that I've seen them on kind of request lists of customers like, hey, these are the things that I really need to be able to work in Flex 5 more. And then another one that with the update, there's a little bit of feature improvements that I'm pretty excited about. So I wanted to make sure to share that. I know that those people who have the time and ability to join the webinars may not be those accounting staff on your company. So you may need to share this with them on for YouTube afterwards, or pass on the information. But I think this is some good information that a lot of the teams will want to look at. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen over here. Okay, so I have a few projects here made for this, but we actually want to start with a different one, not related specifically to a quote, but with the insurance upload tab. So we've got that added to contacts now. So I can go in my contacts and then over here, and I'm just going to use my one client of Flex Rental Solutions. I've kept this database pretty simple for the moment. So we're just going to say Flex Rental Solutions. So we see now here, if on my client, and I'm choosing to track if they have proper insurance so that if we rent them gear, if something goes out like that, that we have the, the knowledge that they're, if something happens, it's an accident, they can recover and replace our gear. So some companies use this, other companies don't. It's a pretty, handy feature for those who choose to use it. So we now have the insurance tab here, and it's pretty straightforward of a thing to use. Right now, it says there's no currently listed insurance. We can go to the bottom and say, okay, we want to add a new insurance. In this, I'm just going to fill it out. And so I'm just going to, so I don't give anything to any different kind of insurance company, whatever thing. So example, insurance company. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you could put some other kind of description information in here that you want, but it is not required. Then kind of a coverage limit. Oh, this is a $500,000 policy, okay? And then listing the effective date and expiration date on this, okay? So in this, we'll just say, for example, they barely got it and it is good till next year. So we can then push this to 2022. Still May, and then say it's going to be the end of May 2022. Okay, so pretty straightforward. Now, one important thing to remember on this, I'm first filling in information to add the insurance, but then once it's there, you'll see over here it says number of files 0. I didn't have any way to upload it. I don't know, I'm guessing it's some kind of a limitation. This is how it works in Flex 4, so we've kept that, but then I can go over here and edit, or I think I can just double click, and now I have the ability to add a file. So if you want to actually upload the file, it's important because there is an ability in Flex to be able to reference this data to double check against your quote on the insurance. But a lot of times you want more proof than that. So we want to then actually add a file. So we go to there, say to upload. I just have this little sample COI here that I'm going to upload here on that. Now it is built so you can add multiple files. If for some reason this one insurance policy covers multiple things, you can upload more. But it's important to note that if it's just that they have an additional policy, you may instead want to just go and add another policy. But if there's 2 documents that are both related to one policy, then you can upload both of those, okay? So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Once there, you can then go in and click this, see what's there. You can re-download it to double check and reference it if you're at some other computer, not where it was originally uploaded, to have that information, okay? Now, one thing I do want to highlight for the people who have used this feature is that in Flex 4, there is an ability to turn on that if the replacement value of the gear on my show to a client is more than their current insurance policy, it will flag them. It will say, hey, there is insufficient insurance, and let you know. Doesn't stop anything, but it does sort of flag and let things know. The thing is that is not implemented in Flex 5 yet. And the reason for that is where it normally shows up is over on the right above the element tree. And because in Flex 4, it's always out, that's an easier place. In Flex 5, we can't use that same space. And so at the moment, there's internal discussions about basically figuring out a better place to do it. Do we kind of take over with the note section here and kind of add it into that? Because we already have logic to flag this with a color. Do we add an additional tab? With that, do we then plan to have other kind of notifications with it? So we're trying to figure out the best way to do this. I will say if there's any ideas, you feel free to go ahead and use the send feedback. Send those out and let us know. We will, happily look into that and see if any good ideas and take them into account. But for the moment, though you are utilizing the insurance thing, it will still not flag if you were using that in Flex form. Okay, so that's the key thing on that. I just know specifically some customers had requested, and so you can now upload insurance on that. Okay. So with that, the second thing I want to talk about, which again I know was highly requested, is we have some customers who are very frequent users of incremental invoices. Okay. For this, a long-time example is customers who have a lot of long-term rentals, okay, things that are long. I specifically have this, it's basically 3 months, okay, 3 months out here. And so rather than just sending one big bill for the 3 months, instead I want to send one bill each month, okay, on that. But I don't necessarily want to have to make 3 separate quotes to get to my 3 separate invoices. I want to make one quote and then just bill it over time, okay? So in this, to do that, now you'll see within the financials, if it's turned on, there is a way to turn it off, but it is on by default in any system. Now the create incremental invoices, okay? When I do this, it's going to always initially split into 2 invoices. It's just going to take the name and number and tag them with an invoice 1, 2, but I can click in here and rename them in any way that I want, okay? With that, then, I can add additional invoices if I need to increase the amount of increments that I'm billing out on that. Now, one note here already, you'll see that this is saying the total is odd and it doesn't divide evenly between 2 lines. And this is a key thing. In Flex 4, we made it figure the math and round one of them up to get to the proper one. And we decided that's not for us to decide on that. That's for you to decide. So we've done the even division and left the remainder and flagged you here to say, this is not actually getting everything, okay? So though the percentage part here says 100%, you'll see that the quote price gets to 77 cents and I'm only to 76 cents. So you can then click in here and say, oh, well, I'm going to make the second one have that extra penny, and then it's going to update and now match, okay? So that there. Note that if I want to then, no, I actually just need to bill it across 3, I can push forward here. Now, right now, I just have a third at 0. If I want them to divide evenly, I can do that. Now, in this, it thinks it's imperfect, but because it's odd, it actually does divide correctly. So that's why both of these references are important. Now note, if for some reason you're like, well, actually what I want to do is I want to bill 50% and then 25% and 25%, and you can do that. Again, here, that's not going to divide evenly. We'd have to figure out where we want to throw that remainder, but it gives you a lot of flexibility within this, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at this tweak here, this adjustment where I've done 1, 2, 3, but I actually did a bunch up front and then a little more on my next 2. Oh, also in my due dates, okay? This is another nice thing. So you can click in here and decide when are you going to make this invoice due, okay? So maybe we say, oh, well, this first one, I need some money up front, but then on my other ones, I want to go more towards the end of those later months. They're just towards the end. So I want to get some upfront money. Note in there, you probably have saw that if I have this date and I click in, oh, I guess they fixed that. There was something where it was kind of inheriting some, but it's pretty smooth, pretty simple to kind of update that information. So once I have this and I go, yes, this is what I want it to create. This is how the percentage, the numbers, the names want to do. Go ahead and hit create. In this, it's going to double check on you that it's saying it doesn't hit that 100, but I've done the override, so it is actually okay. But it's just, again, trying to remind you, make sure you double checked all of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit yes. And if I now look at my tree, I've got 3 separate invoices here. Okay. Now, there is one thing that for some customers, they're not fans of this. And it is a very clear reason why, that when we go to the detail block of the invoice, so in here, I had it as a rental item equipment. But in here, it changes it to a service and then says the name and says, refer back to this quote for details. Okay. And so it's important to note. Now, we can override what this lands as, but it, under the idea, I didn't have just one line. I had 100 lines of gear, but I divided it. It doesn't know how to go, oh, well, there's some gear and some labor and some of this. It can't redivide that out. So it turns it into a simple thing. Some customers have no problem with this. Some customers have. So if that's an issue, then I tend to recommend you can't do it this way. We have to work kind of in other ways, other methods. Another important thing to keep in mind is if I've done this, I don't ever want to go back here and hit generate invoice, because what it's going to do is take the top one of those invoices and hand this info off, and now I'm going to be double billing. Okay, it's the thing where we have to choose to do either incremental or regular invoicing. You don't do both. Okay, so that's that key thing. But as I've said, I've known lots of customers who were like, I use incremental very regularly. I need that in Flex 5. And so I wanted to highlight that it is there, and a couple little improvements in that user interface that I think is quite nice for kind of measuring. It's very similar, but a couple little nice things. Okay, so that gets us our incremental invoicing there. So with that, I want to talk about the last one here. And this last one, I'm actually pretty excited about. There's some cool improvements to this that I like. And also, this is a feature that not a lot of customers understand is available, not partially because it's not very frequent that we need it, but there are times that people may want to do this. Okay, so for my example here, I'm going to say I have this large show that has 3 quotes in it. Okay, different values. And in this, for simplicity, I've already pushed them all to invoices. They're for different values. So I sent out for deposit invoices on all of these. We're not going to get into the details on how or what I may have asked for that. There's kind of different options in that. But I asked for deposits, okay, for basically 50% of the total of everything, okay? But mine are different values on this. But the client, when they got that, said, okay, great. Here's one check for 50% of those 3 shows. Now, I can go in and just manually make a receive payment here, receive payment there. But this is highlighting that I can do a single received payment and count it against multiple different events, okay? And I can either do that by starting on one. I could open one of these and make the first received payment and then add to it. But in this case, I'm just going to make one open by itself. Oh, I didn't reload this. Okay, well, we'll do it the other way. I added it to the ability, but I forgot to refresh that. It is not default in your system to be able to make a received payment here. So we'd need to have a update to your system. If that is something you want to do, reach out to support and they can assist you. I'll just go ahead and start with one of these. So we'll start with the general session here. So I'm going to go ahead and open my invoice. And so if you're receiving the payments in there, the normal way here is that I would go over to my financials and I'm going to enter a payment, okay? So it's gonna have this whatever memo in here, my payment date. Now for my payment method, again, I'm gonna say they cut me a check for that, and I've got a reference on here. They wrote the check yesterday, okay? So here's my key. Anytime I'm receiving a payment, the first thing it's going to try and do is assume it's paid in full. So it filled out that payment amount to be the entire total. Okay, but in this, I know this is my deposit. Okay, for easy math on me, we're just going to say we're putting 25,000 towards this show, little less than half. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and say okay and create that payment. Okay, so now we would see on here that I've got some applied payment, that my balance due is now less, and we're in a good shape. We can also then go look and see the account receivable that is the child. And so I can go open that, and then I can decide, you know what, I still have more value from this that I want to apply to it, okay? in this, and I don't remember exactly, we'll figure out what it was. I think I made the party around 30,000, the breakouts around 20,000. So we have still another 25,000 worth of value on this check they gave us, but I want to apply it to these other things, not just apply it to this one, okay? So what I can do is go to the detail block and set myself to add a miscellaneous line. But in received payments, there's technically only one kind of line that you can have, okay? So what it's going to do is give me the ability. Now, really important on this, if I went to make this separate, my header must be properly connected to the client's actual, database information. I can't just type in there. I have to make sure it's tied to the client, because what it's going to do is look through the system and create me a list of what are all the shows that might have been for Flex Rental Solutions. Now, because they're the only one in here, I've done all these on this, but I can go and find in here these, and I can search on this. So I only want my receiving ones. So I can go, oh, well, I need to add some of this to this breakout invoice. So we can go there. We can also see my totals here on this, okay? I guess I made that 15. So we're gonna go into this breakout one and pop it open. Now it's saying, okay, it looks like you want to apply some payments to that. Its full balance is this. Is it the full balance? And again, in this case, I want to say no. Now, this is an important thing. This is one of those important differences. In Flex 4, if I did this, it didn't give me this pop-up window to let me change it. It would include the whole payment, and I could edit it after the fact. But there was an issue with that, where if you had the mark in the paid in full workflow action to trigger, it would trigger that to suddenly be called, and you'd have to go back in and say, no, it's not really paid. In this way, I can avoid that. I can say, nope, I'm just putting 8,000 of whatever check towards this, okay? A little more than 50%. I'm just keeping the math simple for me, okay? So it's gonna add that line and say there was 8,000 in payment, and we know what's the remaining balance here, okay? Then I can do the same. I can add another miscellaneous line. I can go in and get my search. I can go filter that and say this one is going to the party value. So we're going to do that to our party invoice here. And we're going to say we've got 15,000 on this. Okay, so now I have this one payment where they cut me a check for 48,000. We're just pretending we went backwards on that in it, but I divided it out so that if at any point I'm looking at each of those, or even if I went to the projects tree to look at my invoices here, I'd be able to see exactly what I have divided. And I wouldn't just say, yeah, technically if I had 48,000, I could count all of it towards this. That's towards the grand total of it, but maybe I'd rather really think, no, it is deposits towards 3 different shows, and I want to divide it up that way, okay? So that's that kind of first important thing on that there. So that's the kind of nice value. As I said on that, you see that because we did it this way, all of these still sat at unpaid invoice. They have deposits on them, they have balances, but they did not become paid in full. They did not become marked as paid, okay? But now we can go in under the idea of we receive our final payment, okay? And let me actually reload this. I just want to show how this displays that. Oh, yeah, so you see it's still just connected on this one, but the others will actually know and have that connection. If I go and open any one of them, they'll still see that update in their balance and know where they're connected to, okay? So it is still there in that. I think if I go to the payments tab, so you'd see it here and have the ability to open to it from that section. So you'd know exactly where all of that connection is, okay? So then I just want to show really quick on this. If we then go back to, and we'll just start here with this guy, and we're going to go and enter another payment that we're going to say, now they've given us our final balance, okay? They've cut us another check. This is 2, 3, 4. They wrote it today. And so again, it's trying to get me to full balance. And I'm going to say, yes, this one is full balance finished out. Okay, put that there. That is going to take this and mark it as closed because now it has a balance due of 0, right? but I can still similarly go to that payment and go say, well, where we did this 28.5, we actually got a check for the rest of the balance of all the rest of the show. And we can do the same thing here, where we can add our miscellaneous lines. Go find it and say, we're doing that already. You see that because that other one was paid in full, when I go and search, I don't see the general session quote or that, because they both are closed under my current workflow. Okay, that's that key thing in there. So now I can go to this on my invoice and say, yep, I'm all good here. I'm going to do the rest of the balance. And it's then this is the other thing. Even at this point on it, no, it did it on the first one because I did it through the regular action. But by doing it here, we're like, well, how about we trigger and just double check? It got to 0. Do you want to run the paid in full action? If for some reason you think you're going to need to go review it, you can say no and it won't do it. In this case, I want to go and do it. We felt it was worth that one little extra button press to give you the ability to say, no, in this case, I don't want to do that. Okay. And then in the same thing, we're just going to go ahead and hit our last one here on our invoice and finish that and say, yep, we'd like to mark that paid in full. So now if I go back to my invoices and I reload, all of those will actually be gone unless I say include closed, and then we would find them as invoice paid. Okay, so that's that feature I'm a little extra excited about. I think is really good. Some kind of improvements to that, and a thing that, again, I think a lot of people aren't aware of and would take advantage if they had a better understanding of what they can do with that. So with that, we will move to taking questions. Will you be able to use this feature for credit limits? I'm guessing on that we're talking about the insurance feature. At the moment, no. It's specific just to insurance. Do they have insurance that covers the replacement value? But like I said, as we're looking to kind of redesign the way where it pops up, we have the thought of, well, what are maybe some other notifications that you might want to put on things? Maybe put a credit limit on people. Maybe put a ability to tag a certain customer to say, no, we don't do business with this person anymore. Other things. So there are improvements and other kind of notifications we're looking to add, but at the moment, the only feature is that do they have the insurance required to cover the replacement value of the equipment for the event? Any other questions? And it could be, just generally anything related to accounting was kind of on that. If we don't have any, I could take just any couple of questions if people are bothered to connect here. But mostly want to focus on things for accounting. Well, real quick, since I don't have any questions, I'm just curious if anybody wants to chime in that were you aware or not of some of those features? Are any of those features things that if you are now aware, you think you would like to take advantage of? I'd just be interested to hear if this was kind of valuable topic, valuable information for people, even if it doesn't cause any questions to occur. That's really great to see, Alicia, that you already used the feature for the one payment across multiple things, and nice to see that. Good there, Keith. Yep, just like to hear any feedback. Like I say, sometimes I just explain things well and people don't have questions. That's perfectly fine. Yeah, I do remember a good chunk of people, especially early on in these, when a lot of the questions were, when is this going to come out? When is this going to come out? And the insurance was one, and especially the incremental invoicing quite a lot. I knew some people would be happy about the multiple things. So, well, we'll get the YouTube video on. We'll get the YouTube video posted by Monday for sure, Artine, and you'll be able to watch the whole thing or get your accounting team to watch it. Again, just some good features getting moved over to Flex 5 so people can keep their time spent over there and not have to go back over to Flex 4 should make things really good. So if I don't see any other questions coming in, it's perfectly fine. Thanks everyone for being here. If there are any questions, please reach out to support@flexrentalsolutions.com or training@flexrentalsolutions.com. You can always give ideas for future webinars at training@flexrentalsolutions.com. And always, as you know, you go look at the Help Center for additional information. Thanks and have a great day.